So we had spoken about this album release a lot in the lead up to it coming out, but Ariana Grande did drop her 8th studio album Petal on Friday, our time. So it's a tight 12-track album co-written by Ariana and Ilya Salmanzadeh with Max Martin also
on 3 songs.
Contributing to 3 songs.
So she's got the Swedes in the room.
Yeah,
you know there's going to be bangers when the Swedes are in the room.
Yes, and Ilya was executive producer. And I think in many ways this album, and I figured this from the single track that was released, which was Hate That I Made You Love Me, which has charted really well and is a song about, you know, her relationship with her fans. While some people thought it was romantic, we definitely were of the opinion that it comes down to like her fandom and the way she interacts with people. But the production on that song made me believe that this would kind of build upon what she did with Eternal Sunshine. Mm-hmm. So for anyone who doesn't know, she dropped Eternal Sunshine in 2024 and then she dropped an extended album, Brighter Days Ahead, in 2025. And that was a bit of a departure from what we'd seen from her before. Not every fan loved it. I did. That was my favorite work she's ever done.
Absolutely loved it as well.
And I think it was a very commercial success, very critical success, but I think some fans weren't necessarily that thrilled by the situation.
Yeah,
some diehard fans who prefer the like belting pop Ariana that they were used to on other albums. But it was still a huge, huge, huge success. One of her best albums ever. And in my opinion, her best album ever.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh, I love that. Look, my opinion about Ariana's albums is she has delivered consistently excellent work across all 8 albums.
Yes.
I do not think she has a dud. She is so, so talented. We know that. Like writing, like her voice is like no one can deny that Ariana's probably got the best pop voice out there right now and has had for such a long time.
Yeah.
But I think that she's really good at kind of setting trends with music as well. And has consistently done that and doesn't repeat the same thing, which I love.
Yes.
But still everything sounds like unmistakably Ariana.
I agree with that. And I think, you know, with Eternal Sunshine, she described the creation process on the Zach Sang show and she basically said it was profoundly human and emotional and that it was a concept album, obviously with that name, inspired by the film Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, one of her favorite films. She references it throughout the album in music videos and in lyrics. And the album sort of charted like her marriage breakdown, her new relationship with Ethan Slater, her relationship with the media and fans. And she said it was an unexpected album. She wasn't planning to do it until after Wicked.
Yeah.
But because of the writer's strike, she had time. So she ended up making this album and she said that she didn't feel like going into specifics, but there's an insatiable frustration, inexplicable, hellish feeling with watching people misunderstand the people you love and you. So that's what she said about that album.
Yeah.
And I do feel like she's doubled down on Petal with the themes, with the production, and with what she's trying to say. And we knew that from the outset from an interview that she just did with Apple Music.
Yes, which I'm going to play a clip from because no one says it better than the girl herself.
The album was always called Petal to me. Funny enough, even though I hadn't written a song yet, I was like, I feel like this album's called Petal because I just kept thinking about this image of a flower growing through the cracks. I think that's how I was feeling at the time when I wrote the songs. It's funny because I am on tour now and I'm having such a beautiful, amazing experience, but this album is written about some of the harder moments I think that I felt in the last year. I'm excited to perform them in this space because even singing songs like Hampstead or Hate That I Made You Love Me that are written about a similar type of feeling that I've experienced in my life, singing those in this space just feels like such a corrective experience. And obviously, the people who come to my shows are not who those songs are about. You know the difference. But, like, it's just such a beautiful thing to be, experiencing the other side of that coin.
I think that's really interesting. Like, Hampstead is one of my favorite songs from the last album. And it does go into that thing of, like, you know, throw away my reputation and talk. Like, it was kind of her own little, like, very peaceful version of a Taylor Swift Reputation song.
Yeah.
Talking about how people hated her, but she didn't care so long as, like, she knew who she was and she knew what her own story was. And I think you really see that in this album, Petal. She's really going into the fandom and how it made her feel. But I would say with more rage. And I mean, she would say with more rage.
She would say with more rage, and she does. I think that, like, the reference to the fans is really interesting and really important. I love that she said it directly as well. And the thing is, we've seen a lot of, you know, not great behaviour from a lot of Ariana. Well, this is the thing. I won't say it's a lot. I never think it is a lot of fans. I think it is always a small group of very, very noisy fans, and that like the majority of fans, which as she said, people coming to her shows, people, you know, actually just don't participate in like negative online discourse. Most people are happy to like live their lives and not involve themselves in that.
Yeah, they just want to listen to music, go to a concert, and that's it.
Yes. But the people that, you know, like celebrities see what the really noisy, you know, awful stuff is, and they see a lot of it, and that's like kind of it will sit there, particularly on Twitter.
Yeah.
And then I think it probably just feels overwhelming and like more people feel that way than actually do. But I think it's important and interesting that Ariana like acknowledged that she knows that that's not necessarily the case because she's still got like this huge fandom and people that.
And to say it's quite like corrective to have written this album now, Petal, as well as obviously some of the songs on Eternal Sunshine that address it, and to be performing them for her fans would be an interesting experience.
Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah.
So she does, as you say, refer to it coming from a place of rage, and she says it directly. So I'm going to play that clip as well. This was also in the Apple Music chat.
I'm equally excited to see how they react to every single song. I don't know. I'm just very excited. I think they'll feel familiarity and comfort in it because it just feels like it pulls from many different parts of myself, and yet at the same time it is very experimental and different for me. And it's also, I wrote from a place that I don't usually, I feel like, which was like an unfiltered rage that I think we all feel sometimes. I usually am too shy to tap into that, and I think this time I kind of just didn't filter as much as I usually do. I usually do a lot of rewrites and make things a little kinder, a little less whatever direct, but this time I didn't, and I think they'll be excited by that. And also, yeah, I hope they love it.
I think it's really interesting that she says she's usually a bit more filtered. I do still feel there's a level of filter to Petal, but it is very vulnerable. I think it's a lot darker and more haunting than Eternal Sunshine. I think that is the vibe you get from it that I got from it when I listened.
I think it's really haunting to listen to because and some of the complaints, as you said, is that she's not doing these like big, powerful, like vocal tricks with her voice that she's so capable of doing. Yes. But she's singing so like from a perspective of vulnerability, and she is using those softer, hushed tones that, you know, she has always employed in her music, but this whole album is like that, as was Eternal Sunshine. But the production on it is really haunting.
I love it.
I love it too. And like, I think that sonically it does literally sound like this like little petal, like this precious little like delicate petal, which is her voice, like coming up through like the hard cracks of the pavement.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very, like you said, it's synth heavy. There's a lot of layered vocals, muted vocals compared to other albums, but still very impressive what she's able to do with her voice. Like just because it's not belting, it's not God is a Woman, doesn't mean it's not an impressive thing to do with your voice. The fact that she can sing at one note in some songs just consistently.
The restraint is amazing, and it is very difficult to do.
And she's spoken extensively about the influence of Imogen Heap on her work, and has previously covered her music as far back as 2018, like spoke a lot about Eternal Sunshine, about using tricks that Imogen Heap uses. And I think, again, doubled down on that with this album in the way that she wanted her voice and the layering to sound. I do think the first song, which is I think when I text you, the opening track is called Kiss Me, and it starts like this beautiful little like melodic unfurling, and then you just get like a boom of synth, like this, especially if you're wearing like intense headphones and you listen to that song. It was like it shocked me back.
Yeah, you're like,
I was like,
back.
whoa.
Yeah.
And then I literally felt like my soul leave my body.
Kiss Me was such a great opener.
Such a strong opener.
Love
and
that
it felt
song.
a bit like, you know, the Charlie XCX Wuthering Heights album, just the intensity of the synth in that.
Yeah, it really does, and that same haunting mood.
Yeah. And the first few lines, I was like, okay, it's old school Ariana because I don't know what she's saying. Like, the enunciation is gone. It wasn't really like when you do actually listen back, like on my second and third listens of the album, I was like, oh no, I get it, we're good. But you know, Ari has been accused before of not enunciating and not like being easy to understand in her songs. And he'll kiss me a couple times. I was like, oh, okay. I don't know what you're saying, but I'm having a great time. I'm swaying in my chair. Yeah. It's amazing. But ultimately that song was about like exploring like longing and the heavy weight of ending a relationship and like trying to figure out if you can revive it with a kiss or a physical connection. But what I loved about this song and all the way through the album she's talking about romantic love. She's talking about personal love, loving yourself. And
Yeah.
she's talking about the love she shares with fandom and the media. And I think at a lot of points, you don't know who she's talking about.
Exactly. And possibly at points she's talking about all of them at once. Because a lot of it would intertwine for her as well. There's references to friends and exes and like, you know, not knowing who's a friend and who's a foe.
Yeah.
And like, you know, which is such a intricate theme. And I do think that there's probably a lot that cross over throughout the songs.
Yeah. What song did you like the most? Or what are your top songs?
Okay, my top 3 songs are Oh Well,
Yes.
Petal,
Yep.
and Kiss Me.
Interesting. Okay.
What about you?
I think I'm Kiss Me.
You can't ask me without having
I have like 7 ready.
prepared.
I think mine are Kiss Me,
Yeah.
Oh Well, and Nowhere Nobody
Oh, so good.
are my tops.
Yeah.
But I think with Oh Well,
There's no skip on the album, by
I
the
don't
way.
think there's a skip.
And I've never, ever had a skip on an Ari album. I do think she is
Interesting.
one of the most consistent artists. And she's such a hard worker as well.
Yeah.
She does not leave anything like unturned when she's making music.
Yeah. I think with Oh Well and also Nowhere Nobody, I think those are the most Image and Heap coded tracks. Like when I was listening to them, I thought they sounded like, what's the song? It's Just For Now, which is from the movie The Holiday, and Good Night and Go, which Ari has covered previously.
Yes.
Those Oh Well and Nowhere Nobody reminded me of those two Imogen tracks. And I'm not saying she copied them. It was just the vibe of the way that she layered.
Yeah, like the
and
influence.
Just the beat, I think, of Oh Well and Good Night and Go, something about it spoke to me. And I would say you can see that influence very clearly, but it's its own thing. And Nowhere Nobody, again, this is why I think this album needs to be listened to a lot. It needs to be listened to cohesively from start to finish. I've seen a lot of people saying they think that song's about like a romantic relationship. I thought that was about her finding peace in her relationship with herself. What did you think of that song? Because it's the closure to the album.
I thought the same as you. And then
Yeah.
I also think the fact that she chose it as the closure also makes the most sense
Yes.
as well because, you know, she's been through so much and the album is such a journey through all of those relationships that she's had to navigate, and particularly under like heavy scrutiny in more recent years. So I think it makes sense for her to come back to herself, which is what she has always done. It's always how she's coped with everything.
Yeah.
And it's a reference that she's made, even like in Thank You Next, the title track of the album Thank You Next.
Yeah.
You know, she goes through all the exes she's happy to kiss goodbye, but the reference point that she comes back to in where she finds her peace is within herself.
I know we've already mentioned Hampstead, but I think closing Eternal Sunshine Brighter Days with Hampstead, closing this album with Nowhere Nobody, both of them having similar messaging of, love being quite big and like of taking a leap of faith and falling in love and acknowledging the risks that it might not work out, all that sort of messaging of Nowhere Nobody. It still, I think, comes back to like herself.
Yeah,
Personally,
I agree.
you know, especially of like the deep breaths, honey, there's no more running, like that layering over and over again. I took a contemplative walk on Saturday evening. I put that song on repeat and I was like, who am I?
Was this your walk to get pizza?
No, that was my Sunday night walk. Just get more steps by going to get pizza. It's a philosophy I live by.
Makes sense.
But I went on a walk. I thought about like my hopes and dreams, my failures, of course, because there are so many. But I was like, it's just such a nice, it's not even nice. Like the messaging is quite, you know, sad and happy and hopeful and all of these things. And I thought it was a really interesting song to end the album with when you've gone into your relationships with your fans and some toxicity in love and in your own behaviors.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good way to end the album.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Do you know, whenever an album comes out that of an artist that I love and also that I've been like hotly anticipating, after I've given it like a good listen, top to tail 3 or 4 times, then I look at other reviews.
Yes.
I don't like the reviews to like get in my head before I listen or before I've like really let the album like completely wash over me.
Yeah.
But my favorite music writer is Rob Sheffield at Rolling Stone in the US.
Yes.
And he did the review for this album, and I'm going to read you a little
I haven't
bit.
read it yet because likewise, I listened, loved it, went online, saw all this hate and negativity, which again, people are entitled to their own opinions, but I was surprised by some of it, and I went, I'm going to hold on that. So I've been looking at it all today, but I was giving myself a breather to not look at other people's opinions for a minute.
Okay, so Rob gave it 4 stars out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just obviously a very small extract, but I love it. He says, that rage is all over Petal, obviously referring to what she said about it being unfiltered rage. But it suits her musically because Ariana is always best, most herself when she goes off the dome, talking her shit in don't give a fuck mode. Even the album cover is part of the statement, wearing her hair down and loose. We know she's famous for her ponytail.
Mm-hmm.
Ariana abandoning her ponytail is as iconic as George Michael setting fire to his leather jacket. For some of us, there's no Ariana like a pissed off Ariana. Both Eternal Sunshine and the expanded Brighter Days Ahead were ornate and meticulously crafted, but the kick of Petal is that it's much more loose and spontaneous. She's shooting from the hip, both musically and emotionally, but that fuck it attitude comes through loud and clear on Petal, and that attitude brings out Ariana Grande at her best.
Okay, I've seen some very negative reviews, especially from Pitchfork and The Independent. And when does Pitchfork like a single pop girl other than Olivia Rodrigo?
One, only one. They love Olivia and
they're like, and everyone else garbage.
Everyone else garbage, especially you, Lana Del Rey.
Oh my God, they hate her.
They hate her, and they've doubled down on hating her all these years later. Yeah, so I don't care what Pitchfork have to say about Ariana's album, and I reckon Ariana doesn't care either.
I don't think so.
I would care so much more what Rob Sheffield from Rolling Stone had to say.
Yeah.
And I actually 100% agree with everything that he has said.
That's interesting. A lot of the criticism I'm seeing from fans is coming from the realm of several realms. One being they don't think there is rage on this album, or that they don't think there's enough for what she was saying, because she's repeatedly called it feral. She's said that a lot of it came from a place of writing through rage, and they were expecting more like, I guess, of a punch.
Screamo? It's just, she's not that type. Like, she's not going to give like screamy rage. And it's so funny because I've seen people reference Reputation and saying, you know, that's an album full of rage. It's actually not.
Yeah.
That album is a love album.
Full of love.
Like, it's so funny that people don't see kind of restrained, like quiet rage as rage.
It's also like,
which is what this is. Like, Ariana's not going to scream and belt on an album that she refers to as like exhibiting her rage.
Yeah.
This is scarier, this rage. A quiet simmering rage is so much scarier. Yeah.
And I think, you know, what she's said is she was writing from a feeling of rage. She was writing, and it was feral, like her word, not mine. And she was coming at it from a place of all of these big emotions. That doesn't mean the song is going to be that. And I think I've seen a lot of music influencers, which is not obviously the same as a critic, but I'm not discrediting them. A lot of them who really like the album saying like, you need to listen to the words she is saying. You need to listen from top to bottom to understand what she meant. And if you don't like it, fair enough. You don't have to like this album. You can think it's a bad album, but I think there's a lot of like a misunderstanding of what she's said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, as you say, she was, you know, and she says it in that clip for Apple when she's like talking about being on tour, and that she doesn't necessarily feel like that now. She's having such a good time touring her music for her fans.
Yeah.
But like sitting in a writing session when you're feeling a feeling and pouring that out, like, that's cathartic in itself.
Yeah.
So the rage starts to dissipate as you let it out. It's like anything that, like, you know, if you sit down and write a journal entry when you're feeling really angry.
And then
like,
you look at it later, you're like, oh, that's embarrassing.
You're like, and you're like, wow.
Why did I say that?
Yeah, or like, I don't feel like that anymore. And so, like, the time that it took from writing to recording to release, like, it is a long time span. And so there might be elements of that rage that she still feels, and there's still feelings going on there, but there's also a lot of like times passed.
And I mean, I think her interludes on her albums are some of the best stuff that she does. And this one's called Warning Sign. And she opens up in it about being like blind half the time. And she talks about like ecstasy and seeing new colors, and then like one person's someone's attention to abruptly vanish from you. But the end of that interlude, she basically like, that's a belt moment. It's just that it's been lowered in volume. But she belts out like, I wish someone could hear me, before the song kind of abruptly cuts off. And I think looking at it all and listening to it the way that I did, and what I took from that sort of like darkness and stuff, I saw this album, or heard this album, as maybe a bit of a farewell or a bit of an ending to something. And I did think that it had the tone of her maybe signing off for a while. What did you think? And did you get that from an initial listen?
I didn't. In retrospect now, which will explore. It obviously, you were right.
And like, it wasn't just me. I didn't come to that on my own. It was some of these like creators who I love on TikTok who were talking about how much they love the album, all coming to that conclusion as well. And me going, oh, maybe it is a step back.
I think that I didn't even consider it. And I think that my mind was clouded by what's a typical record cycle.
Yes.
And also the hard worker that I know Ariana to be.
Yeah.
And that she's always kind of followed through and done the work of like, what's expected when you drop an album.
And I don't think I would have thought more about it for now because she's currently on tour. She had so much in the works, so much in the pipeline that it sort of more just like sounded like an ending to something that maybe we'd explore down the line, but that has, I guess, come up a lot quicker due to a statement that her team has made and some steps that she's taken this weekend. So obviously there has been a lot of discussion around Ariana Grande from her voice changing as she, you know, acted as Glinda and people criticizing her for her perceived sort of changes to like her persona and her voice and her tone of speaking. You know, that was one criticism, to criticisms about, you know, her face and people thinking she had work done, to criticisms around obviously her body. There has been a lot said about Ariana Grande in recent years, increasingly so as she's gone on her current world tour for the Eternal Sunshine album and as she has finished up the press cycle of Wicked and started to move towards other projects like American Horror Story. She was going to have a debut in West End. She obviously is in Meet the Fockers, the Ben Stiller, like Meet the Parents continuation. So she's very heavily still in the press at the moment with a lot of increasing noise and criticism surrounding her, particularly regarding her body. And as she released Petal, obviously that conversation was going to keep going. It really intensified over the weekend as she dropped the music video for Petal, which we will get into. But that sort of culminated overnight in her team releasing a statement and announcing that she's going to be taking a step back from the public eye, including withdrawing from some of the work that she had coming up.
Yeah.
So the statement, which was shared with The Hollywood Reporter on Sunday, said Ariana will be taking a step back from visibility after she completes the Eternal Sunshine tour. So the tour concludes on September 1st in London with a 10-show residency in London. It's just a US and UK tour. It's not coming to Australia, which we were very sad about.
We were.
And it is a bit unique to be doing a tour for a last album as you release a new album, but we'll talk about that in a sec. But the statement read that she would be taking a step back from visibility after this leg is over. She looks forward to finishing the tour and ending it on a high note, both healthily and happily, and then taking a much-deserved break from public-facing work and appearances, which has led to endless ongoing public scrutiny. This tour has been a beautiful experience for her. She loves her fans and has loved every minute of this tour so much. So this is after it was already announced 2 weeks ago that she was pulling out of American Horror Story season 13.
Yes.
Which was going to be her first American Horror Story appearance, but not her first time working with Ryan Murphy.
No, she'd obviously worked with him in Scream Queen, so she's very much in the Ryan Murphy universe.
Yeah.
And then it was announced that she was going to be joining the cast of American Horror Story, which has like pulled back all of the Coven cast. I was so excited that Ari was going to be part of it. Then she pulled out.
And it was sort of
scheduling conflicts, which also it does make sense. She's dropped this album in the meantime. She had to reschedule some of her American shows and do new dates for that.
Yeah.
She's on tour. She's got a lot going on. Also, like, she probably was on like a 1-day shoot or 2-day shoot or whatever for AHS.
Yeah.
And then it just conflicted and had to pull out, right?
Yes.
So that was kind of what we assumed at that point.
Yeah.
But this statement, which by the way is an official statement that has come from her team.
Yeah.
So this isn't speculation. This isn't like a friend said or a source close to the star. It's like this is official. This is an official announcement, which it is a very unusual time to do something like this.
Yes, while she's still got half the tour to go.
It's already, I think, you know, she's thrown the rule book out the window as far as how you release an album is concerned anyway. She has done that before, by the way. Thank You Next came out really, really hard up against Sweetener.
Yes.
So she did Sweetener. Then she was like, I don't feel that way about Pete anymore and I've got a lot to say about it, which I do think like that's when she does do her. I mean, as I said, I think all her albums are absolutely flawless, but I do think she does her best work when she's just really got something to say. So with Thank You Next, Eternal Sunshine, now Petal, and she just like lets it all out, and it's quite like the emotions are quite raw. Now, so she did do that, but it is interesting to drop an album when she is touring the last one.
Yes. And to be fair, Eternal Sunshine, the tour, couldn't really happen until she was done with Wicked Press. And Wicked Part 2 obviously came out at the end of last year. There was, you know, hope that that film would be heavily nominated through award season, which would have seen her be very busy. And then it takes time to plan and rehearse and prep for a world tour.
Oh, huge.
Not that this is really going around the world, but it's still a
to
huge
stage
stadium.
a show and with the expectations people have from an Ariana Grande show as well is a lot of work.
And this tour involves a lot of choreo. She's dancing with like a huge team all night. She gets lifted up in a harness at the end and like goes into the ceiling. Like it's very
multiple
extreme.
Costume changes.
Yeah, very theatrical. It's really like her inner theatre kid came out on this tour, and so it would have taken a lot of planning. So that's why she's doing it now.
The Wicked Press tours were like mini tours in themselves. They were massive. She has been hard at work for the last few years.
And also recording this album all last year. So she's had a lot going on. So it is understandable.
I don't think Girlie's had a day off.
That the tour has, coincided with this album release. And again, I think, like you said, she wanted to release this album, so she's done it.
Yeah.
She wanted this out there, so she doesn't really care about the timing of when it's released. But obviously, the album has just come out, and now, right as it's come out, she's released a statement saying she is taking a break. And that does involve the fact that she will be exiting Summer in the Park with George, which was a West End stage production with her Wicked co-star Jonathan Bailey.
Yes.
People were really, really excited for that. I think she was the most excited about that.
She's wanted to be back on stage for a really long time. This was such a nice way to do it as well, because her and Jonathan Bailey have a beautiful friendship that they obviously fostered on the filming of Wicked, both parts. And I think that's such a safe like landing spot for her and him to like rejoin and do this together. Plus people would love to see them together. But there's been issues with this for a while because the timing of like the ticket release has been pushed back several times.
Okay.
So I've had my eye on not that I was like personally going to go, but I've got friends who were, and I was like, you're going to need all the help you can get to get these tickets. I've been like monitoring this and seeing it constantly get pushed back.
Yeah.
And never with any kind of reasoning for it, but it felt like there was trouble. So now like she has exited that.
Yeah. And it's kind of, I think for a lot of people, the statement, I don't know, it's hard to know if this was a planned thing or if this was something that has just happened. So the idea is that she's taking a step back.
Because they wouldn't say it before releasing the album.
Yeah.
But it's interesting
to do it immediately after.
And
I think, like, obviously they've said that she'll come back and she'll do some press for Meet the Fockers, which comes out at the end of the year.
And she was so excited to be around in that film as well. So, but that's a nice little run of a break. And kind of the break that any artist usually takes after a tour as well.
It is. I think it's interesting to announce it when we're still going to see her for most of 2026. So she'll carry on this tour. She will do press for a movie. Obviously, she's just released the music video for Petal. There might be others that come out with other singles for this album. So it's interesting to announce you're taking a step back when publicly you will be quite visible. But I think it's about making a statement at this time that she's going to take a break because she needs to, and that there will be a point in time where we see less of her, and that the reason she wanted to get the reason out there that she needs a break from the backlash.
And I guess anything that we do see of her between now and the press tour for Meet the Fockers will be things that are pre-recorded potentially.
Yeah.
And whether or not she does, I mean, it sounds like she won't be doing like the rounds of the night shows and all the things people usually do. I mean, we saw like Taylor made it really clear that she wasn't going to take Showgirl on tour, right?
Yeah.
But she did the whole press thing where she went and spoke to all of the night show hosts and whatever, and she made that announcement herself at that time, like, I'm tired, I need a break.
Yeah.
This is much more serious in the way that it's been delivered, like to come from her team.
And I think to come after a weekend in which, while the album I think has had some really great reviews, obviously some criticism as well. Like, we're two people who've loved it. I think a lot of her fans love it, and it's doing really well on Spotify. It's charting really well on Apple Music.
She's never going to have trouble getting a number one album.
It's doing really, really well. But the music video for Petal that was released on the weekend is where a lot of like further backlash, I wouldn't say it's new backlash, it's the same conversation that has been had for months now, bordering on years.
Oh, I would say years. I would say since Wicked.
Yeah. And obviously that is in regards to people talking about her weight and their concerns for her and their concerns for what her team is doing for her. I think particularly the Petal music video, for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, it's visually a gorgeous music video. It's got like the Mad Men aesthetic of like a bunch of actresses auditioning for some really gross stereotypical male media types. Men. Yeah. And it goes through the narrative story essentially is that Ariana pulls up on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and there is a petal, a flower rising through the ground of a cracked star, a delicate little daisy. And it's risen through the cracks in the pavement on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
And she on the star doesn't have a name on it at that point at the beginning, and there are empty stars on the Walk of Fame. Kind of,
she's hitting you over the head. Yes,
absolutely.
She walks into a building called Fame Inc. And she lines up with all of these other women who are, and that's why I mentioned the Mad Men aesthetic. It looks like you could literally be on the TV show Mad Men for how everyone's dressed and what the office looks like and everything. It's a real retro vibe. And there's fun choreo. She's like, all the women are like moving along with their papers, and she does her first audition. In the first audition, we for the first time see that they're writing down notes about her. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the ones that's been heavily dissected, is that on the piece of paper where they're writing their critiques of her, it says could stand to lose a few pounds. And she's given a stamp on the piece of paper that says not good enough.
Yeah.
She runs out of the audition Fame Incorporated building, and the petal in the pavement as she passes it is wilting a little bit. She goes back in the next time.
Well, like it's like every time she goes out, it's trodden on.
It's trodden on and it's wilting that little bit more.
And that's like metaphorically what's happening every time she
hitting
auditions.
You over the head.
Yeah.
The next time she comes in basically in a Sandy from Greece cosplay outfit.
Well, what she's trying to do, because it's like she's not sexy enough, or she's like insincere or whatever. Each time she goes
takes
back
on board their notes.
She takes on board their notes and tries to mold herself into what they said she was lacking in the previous one. And the iteration each time is never well received. There's always a new complaint.
Yes. And if you've seen a lot of the discourse this weekend, that scene where she's wearing the Sandy from Greece outfit is the outfit that's being spread around the internet, showing as it has her whole chest on display, and you can see a lot of bones in her chest. And that is the one that has obviously upset a lot of people. That's the one that people are talking about.
And that's the image everyone's freeze-framed.
Everyone's freeze-framed and shared.
Yeah.
And then, she goes back, she changes herself again, and there's 2 more rounds of her doing different outfits and changing herself. And then there's a part where the men all speak, and this is what they say. You give off this feeling that's completely unmarketable, unattractive, inauthentic, the way you used to be. I miss that. You got some personality disorder going on? That's a question. We miss the old you. Maybe you could go out and find her a comeback and give it another shot. And she's like, but I did everything you said. She's like, I tried to do everything you said. And then it turns into a horror movie and she kills everyone with a chainsaw.
Yeah. It goes a bit Scream Queens at the end.
Goes a bit Scream Queens and graphic. Yes. And then it zooms out again and, she's in a movie. Just kidding. This wasn't real.
Yeah.
And so it is not subtle. No. She's not trying to be. I think her music videos for Eternal Sunshine, and always her music videos have been something she's really heavily praised for putting a lot of effort and thought into.
Yeah, they're always so cinematic and heavily layered with metaphors and
and I think this video and obviously all of the tracks on this album are pointing to what we now know is her taking a step away, of her saying that the scrutiny and the intensity is extreme and that she feels she can't do anything right.
It's so pointed to call it Fame Inc., right? Because I think on the song she says, like, I'm not a victim. I'm literally drowning in my blessings, right? But drowning is such a specific word to use. And I think people have this idea that if you're rich and famous, that your life is so cushioned that everything is fine. Also this idea that you chased this, you wanted this. Yeah. And look, some people do really, really, really want to be famous.
Yes.
But other performers just want to perform and use their talent, and fame is a byproduct of that. Also, she can have really wanted to be famous when she was young and starting out.
It seems like most will start out wanting it.
Yes, and you have this like misconception of what the reality of giving up civilian life is for fame.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you live it day in, day out and you get so heavily scrutinized, you realize that like fame is not fun at all.
Yeah.
And it's become increasingly more difficult because even the fact that Ariana's had to make a statement saying, I have to step away, I will be stepping away, in like social media days when everyone didn't expect content from celebrities all the time.
Yeah.
Everyone stepped away. People made an album, they took it on tour, then they took a break and they came back 2 years later with an album. What they did in those years, we don't know. They went on holidays, they had experiences, they got to live their lives. Yeah, like there'd be maybe paps taking photos of them, particularly when they were like mega, mega, mega famous. But now you're having to feed the beast all the time.
Yeah. And I think doing so at this point where there is so much intensity directed at her, I think it's a good thing for her to take a break. She's been in the public eye since she was a child, but especially in the past few years has not had any time off. And I think it's incredibly hard. You know, you and I have said this before. I don't want to talk about someone's body. I don't want to. And I think it's a hard conversation that everyone's navigating where you're like, is it okay to comment on someone's body when we've spent years saying it's not okay? And I also building to that point.
Agree. And I don't want to talk about it either. And I don't personally see what it achieves talking about.
Yeah. And I mean, Laura Brodnick and Tina Provis did a segment on this a couple of weeks ago and we'll link it in the show notes. And we don't need to rehash it because they've said a lot of what there is to say. Like you can't shame someone
Laura
into gaining
spoke
or losing
so
weight.
Eloquently about it and it was such an important conversation and handled so well, like Laura always does, that definitely go back and listen to that. And we don't need to rehash it now. But I think, I do see a lot of what I would consider faux concern online.
Yeah, got you.
That I think is just masking as bullying.
Right. And I think I understand fans who see that music video scene in particular and who have seen her on stage. And I think that's why there's a lot of intentionality in her team's wording that she will finish this tour healthily and happily. That's why they've chosen that wording.
Those words.
I understand people who see that and are concerned. I understand people who see that and worry about the expectation that it's setting in young girls and women. But I don't think that we can hold Ariana Grande responsible for a societal expectation for women to be thin and for women to succumb to thinness so long as it fits the right kind of thinness. Because no one cared. No one was concerned when she first lost weight.
No.
Because it was a quote-unquote acceptable skinniness or thinness. And this is why I find it hard to make one. I think she has unfortunately become the face of a current situation in Hollywood where we are seeing shrinking bodies and where we are seeing a level of concern for women's bodies that we haven't seen maybe since like the 90s, even in the 2000s, even though I think being thin has been the societal beauty standard for decades. It's just that the kind of thinness changes.
Absolutely expected of our front-facing famous women and pop stars in particular as well.
And I think what's interesting, I don't know, to me is like we saw Taylor Swift speak about this in her documentary.
Yeah, Miss
where
Americana.
She spoke about during the 1989 era and prior to that, but especially the 1989 era, that she had lost a lot of weight and that she would have defended it to anybody who asked. She says, you know, I would tell everyone that I was working out and eating healthy, but I wasn't eating. And that's her sort of exact quote. And it's a really interesting part where she speaks about feeling that pressure to be thin. And she was performing. She was on a world tour. She hit every single country. She was doing an hours-long tour every single night, dancing, running up and down the stage. But she was like, I felt exhausted afterwards all of the time. And, you know, I remember at that time period, people celebrating how good she looked.
Oh, same.
And I remember it being like, she looks like all her supermodel best friends.
And at that time was when she was also appearing on the Victoria's Secret fashion show runways doing like songs with always a music artist or whatever. And it was, I remember the discourse around that being, oh, Taylor looks just like the Victoria's Secret angels with her body the way it is now.
Yeah. And it was a thinness that was celebrated because oh my God, she looks just like these models and she's beautiful. And she said, I was harming myself to do it. And that she, no one cared. And I'm not saying not a single person didn't look at that and think, oh, she's a bit skinny, but it wasn't the predominant conversation surrounding her weight loss. No. And likewise, Demi Lovato has spoken about being so sick she was throwing up blood from starving herself, had to withdraw from a tour she was doing with the Jonas Brothers, and then likewise since has struggled repeatedly with substance abuse and then also with her body image and with her weight, and has I think really candidly and beautifully has spoken about that experience. But also when she lost weight, when a lot of celebrities lose weight, so long as it is within an acceptable realm to people, there's no question of how they're doing it. There's no question of like, is this a dangerous image to project onto young women? And that I think is what is hard about making Ariana Grande like the face of this conversation. I don't think it's fair to her.
The Petal music video and the words that were written down reminded me, and a lot of people, and I'm sure you, of in Taylor's music video for Anti-Hero.
Yes.
When she stepped on the scales and the word fat came up on the scales.
Yeah.
And then she was kind of like, no, that's not, that's bad. That's not okay.
Yeah.
There was so much backlash about that the video got edited and that got removed from it. But it's the same sentiment that Ariana is delivering in Petal with the wording that you read out. These are obviously things that these women are being told by professionals throughout their career.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the things that were said in Ariana from the men in the video and also that were written down on the pieces of paper that Ariana was given in the music video are things that she has heard throughout her career. So it's like the expectations put on them, no one could manage that.
No.
Like you can't live within and mix yourself up and change and try and be all of those things and fall short every time. There's always something.
Yeah. And Taylor says that in the Miss Americana doco when she's talking about it. She's like, you have to have, and this was obviously coming off the back of 1989, we're like 2014-ish, and the beauty standard, which is disgusting, having standards for what women's bodies should look like, was changing. And she says, you have to have an ass, but if you have an ass, then you might have a stomach. And if you have a stomach, you can't have that. So it has to be small. So you have to be like all the right proportions for whatever people want you to be at that point in time. And she says it's exhausting. And it would be so exhausting.
So exhausting. I also was reminded of Mirrorball and what she says about Mirrorball, which is, from her album Folklore, about the whole idea that like when you break into a million pieces and you put yourself back together again and perform for the people love that. They love like what you build, what you make shiny out of kind of the tatters of your life.
Yeah.
And Ariana is saying the same thing here as well. Her marriage breakdown, her relationships, like she constantly, and over the last sort of 4 albums, has put messaging in saying like, stop commenting on this. Don't comment on my body. Why do you care who I'm sleeping with? Like all of these things that she's like, begging people to stop talking about, and she's making her art from it, and it's like people want it, but then they pick her apart.
Yeah, I think, and Holly Wainwright wrote a really great article that's on the site that we can link as well off the back of the discussion they had on Out Loud about the tour and, whether or not it's okay to talk about women's bodies when you start to feel a sense of concern for somebody. And I think what was really interesting about what she said was that, do you want this woman not to do her job because you're concerned about her body? Do you want her to step away and not be allowed to release an album or release a music video? Or like, is it that you want radical honesty from her about what she's going through? I think if you look at this statement and look at the songs that she's releasing, I think you can see that she's going to take a break and she's hoping to take care of herself. And I don't know what else people want from her, and I understand the concern. I deeply get it. I see her, and we don't know what's going on, but there are assumptions of what you could think might be going on with her. But it worries fans, and I get that. But what would we like from her, essentially?
Well, that's it. And we're not entitled to know what's going on as well. She is entitled to take a break, just like any of us are entitled to take sick leave from work and not have to explain
where you're going or what you're doing.
We're sick with or what we're, why we're taking that leave or personal leave. Like anyone should be afforded that. And she gives so much. Every celebrity, and especially these like big A-list pop stars, give so much of themselves over. And their music, when they are singer-songwriters, there is a lot of personal stuff woven in there. They share what they want to share. It doesn't mean that they have to share every aspect of their life with us.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to call out the problem, to call out the standard, to call out the issues in Hollywood and just the way that's trickling down to mostly women, but men and women in general.
But isn't it interesting that they're all doing it? Like they're all calling it out repeatedly and have been for years. Like Britney was calling it out.
Yeah.
But it's still happening.
Yeah. And so like I just, as a fan, I get all the concern and worry, but I personally am more interested in having the conversation around the societal expectation rather than pinning all of it onto one person. Well, but that's me, and I get the people who want to have the convo.
But I mean, that's the only thing that could actually lead to change. Pinning it all on one person and talking ad nauseum about them is not going to make any kind of
and also the suggestion in comments that her team are responsible or her family are responsible or her friends are responsible is doing them a disservice as well.
I agree, because no one knows what's
going on. If you are concerned, all you can hope for is that, yes, look at what she's saying. She's going to take a break and she's going to go away from the public eye for a while, and I think that's for the best for her, and I hope that does her well.
Same. I love Ari. I want the best for her always.